Hey, brother,
Hear me now.
brother dog. Know me, understand.
Welcome to the Sargassum podcast. My name's Robbie Thigpen.
I'm Francisca Elmer.
And I am Mar Fernandez, and we are your hosts for today. We're gonna share with you the latest ideas and solutions about Sargassum, which has become an international challenge.
So, Robbie, you had quite an interesting week this week. Do you want to tell us a bit about what you did?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did. I'm part of the phase 3 AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine trials, and I got my first injection on Tuesday, and I'm pretty excited about that. And all I feel like we've all been there, in this place we've been at and wanting to do something. So when I found out I could participate in this, I did. And I think it's better to be the vaccine data than it is to be a COVID statistic. And if I can take a vaccine, an experimental vaccine, in order to protect other people's families, then everybody should be able to wear a mask. And it was kind of an odd thing turning from someone who collects data to actually becoming the data. And so that's what I've done this week. And all that being said, we got a really nice guest coming here today, Dr. Ligia Collado. And I myself am particularly excited to be meeting her. I've got a little project in Quintana Roo, Mexico. We're creating some biology education materials down there. And Dr. Ligia is from Florida International University. And we have a graduate student working with us from Florida International University named Miss Catherine Guinevere. And so I've heard a lot of really cool things about Dr. Ligia, so I'm excited to be meeting you for the first time. And I believe Francis is going to give you a little bit more introduction than that.
Yes, so today's guest is, as Robbie just said, Ligia Collado-Vides. She's a professor and the associate chair at the Department of Biological Sciences at Florida International University. She's a marine botanist, so she's focusing on macroalgae, or some call it seaweeds. And she's also one of the initiators and organizers of SargNet, a platform to connect people working with Sargassum. Thank you, Ligia, for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation, and really it's an honor to be here with all of you. And really I'm thankful and grateful for the work that you are doing that is really needed for the whole community.
Excellent. I wonder if we could start this off by maybe you sharing a little bit with us about, tell us what Sargassum is.
Well, being a marine botanist, I'm going to be providing, from the perspective of ecology, somebody that is working with algae. So it's a brown algae. Algae are a non-monophyletic. Polyphyletic means that they have different origins, evolutionary speaking. And brown algae are a very particular group that can be closer related to other algae, such, closer within the lineage of Heterocontophyta, within the lineage of Dinophyta and diatoms. But that is the unicellular group. The multicellular group, brown algae and Sargassum itself, is a genus that can be related more with the kelps and Dictyota, other species that we know because they can be forming forests, just like the kelp in the temperate zones. And we have a specific for Sargassum, more than 351 species. So that I really need to be sure that everybody understands. More than 351 recognized by taxonomists species of Sargassum. Only 2 of them are pelagic. What does it mean pelagic? That means that they are going to complete their life cycle floating. And those 2 are Sargassum fluitans and Sargassum natans. So there is a long debate about if there are really 2 species, Sargassum natans and fluitans, if they really complete their life cycle floating. Usually brown algae have a very interesting life cycle, and they have to have a benthic stage. So there is a lot of working hypotheses if there is some way that these floating species are completing their life cycle somehow, but nobody so far has found reproductive structures. So it's just fragmentation.
Interesting. So you've studied a lot of different algal blooms, and so why is this Sargassum different from all these other blooms? What does it make Sargassum special?
Well, those are one of the biggest questions that we have each time that we have an algal bloom. So why Caulerpa taxifolia, that created such and still has a lot of problems in the Mediterranean, isn't it? That is one of the what's called the killer algae. And you can have together Caulerpa taxifolia living with Caulerpa mexicana prolifera, the same genus, different species, same place. One of them are going to bloom, and one of them is going to become a blooming algae. So what are the characteristics? What are the genetic characteristics of a species that can bloom? We still don't know. But it might be a series of events, isn't it? Some of them might be introduced and nobody's going to be eating them. Some of them are going to have this ability of fragmentation. Some of them are going to be the ones that can stand that amount of nitrogen or whatever might be triggering the bloom.
But
so it's very complex. Sorry.
The one that is landing now on the beaches is Sargassum fluitans and Sargassum natans, or is it also a mixture of different species?
Well, that is a very important question, Mark, because, for example, now that we have so many storms in the Caribbean, we are monitoring the beaches, and in some areas you are getting benthic sargassum because the storm is so strong that is detaching those species that are benthic. So when we are doing the monitoring, we have to be very careful. So the ones that are pelagic is only and only natans and fluitans with the different morphotypes. Within the species, there are different morphotypes. That's why they look more like 3 different things than just 2 different things. So in fact, you have fluitans 3, morphotype 3, natans morphotype 1, and natans morphotype 8. Still in debate. Even there is a recent paper saying that many Sargassum species come to just 1. There is still a debate going on. We need to be better in terms of molecular analysis and maybe use the whole genotype to make the differences. Yes.
Ligia, the 2 of us, we have met at different conferences already. And I remember one of them in May 2019, when we were in Punta Cana with the AMLC scientific conference. And you, together with a few colleagues, invited me to this little side meeting about Sargassum. And it was about 10 of us in a room and a few more people virtually joining us through a computer screen. And that was one of the first meetings of SargNet, which is now a pretty big organization that connects all kinds of people working with Sargassum. And this hasn't been very long that it became this big. And can you tell us a little bit about how it started and how it became this big?
Well, I thank you, Fran, and it's been always a pleasure to see you around in the meetings, and because it's only by sharing ideas that we come to something bigger, isn't it, or something that is needed. So you are right, we were in 2019 or 2018 at this moment, life is changing, but maybe in May 2018, I guess. I need to double check that. But the idea is that we were in these meetings. So this problem started really in 2011. And each one has been trying to solve their own problems locally. However, each time that we went to different meetings, even the Cayman with the GCF5 meeting in maybe 13, something like that, they were having the first meetings addressing Sargassum, and then but nothing came to really, each meeting that we went again and again, it was just like a little person talking about Sargassum with a meeting that was something else, isn't it? So in that time, we were already a critical mass, if you will, Casey Luxembourg, Brigitta Tustenbrock, you, the other people that we invited on the internet, because it was already an international problem. And we were facing, and we are facing, a very complex problem. So the first thing that we were chatting is that we scientists need to have some way of communicate, because there is a lot of duplication and a lot of misunderstanding in other kind of, if you live in Timbuktu, I don't know how to say something, and you try to work about sargassum, if you don't have any idea, it's very important for us to share, because maybe that person has the expertise that we need. So it was a collective conversation, and we said we have some goals, and some of the goals were achieved, like creating SargNet. So SargNet, we came back Lowell Porak, because it's a very important part of this. Lowell Porak is my grad student, it's not mine. I don't like that idea of my student. Lowell Porak is a grad student that I advise, and he has been a key person in terms of maintaining the SargNet. So something, we really want to keep this going. Now we have more than 378 members, and it's growing by the day. Every single day we get one or another. And I would like to have the members really, really understand that this is their own discussion forum. So that if I would love is to people feel the ownership. And that has been, in different moments, different institutions have approached us to see if we put SargNet as part of their efforts. And the major effort that I am trying is to keep that as completely independent. SargNet has to be independent, so it's not going to be responding to any agenda. And I think that's the beauty of universities. And so where we want to be, I would like to have SargNet to be moving forward as community. And I'm happy to say that it's already resulting in some collaborations. I'm happy to say that some people are already using it to, to announce their events. And I will be also happy to learn from you. What do you think SargNet could be doing even more?
Thank you, Ligia. I think SargNet is really cool, and without it, we probably wouldn't have gotten this podcast together, because first of all, none of us would have known half the people working in Sargassum and how diverse all of it is. And it would also be really hard to find people to interview if we didn't have SargNet, where we get to know people through emails. What could SargNet do better? I mean, it's a collective thing, so it's not something you have to do or Lowell, but maybe we have to share more, like all of us. That's my take on it. I don't know if Robbie or Mara want to add something to it.
I would just add that effectively Sargassum, the podcast, wouldn't exist if it wouldn't be for SargNet. So it's a great network tool, specifically for people that maybe haven't been working on Sargassum for the last 10 years and just come new to the topic. And then it's an easy platform to move on and access this contact. So I think it's great, amazing project.
Yeah, oh, go Robbie.
No, please continue.
So something that I think is that this is such a complex problem that we are facing, and the exercise of how to address complex problems is something that we need to do at a very rapid pace, because we're facing complex problems more and more and more at all levels of our society. And I think that if something makes me happy is to see that you are building up this podcast and that you are bringing this to another level of communication, discussions, and bringing ideas together to a completely different level. And as far as we can, as community, work together at the different levels, but keep the togetherness. I think that is going to be very important. So, and also to help each other on how to expand how far your podcast can be reached. so each one of us could help through SargNet. Every member of SargNet could help, spread the idea of not the idea, but spread your podcasts to wherever we think. And I don't know what might be the result, because you said something and then it started growing. But eventually we need to recap, isn't it? We need to regroup. And well, what are going to be the lessons that you're going to be learning from the podcast might be very important that you eventually come and share them with the whole community and see how we can get to the next step. And, universities, private sector, governmental sector, international organizations, all of them, if we can reach all of them with your podcasts, I think we can do an impact. And at the same time, I guess there is people in SargNet that are already doing amazing work, like Hazel Oxenford, like Bridget Tausenbrock. And I really want to say and thank both of them, because we have been together and shouldn't say this, but drinking together, talking together and say, well, we need to do something. So SargNet exists also thanks to them. And of course, I will always thank Lowell.
Excellent. We know SargNet sounds like a way of communication and all. And I think if I understand it correctly, it's really more a way to communicate among stakeholders that all have the English or the language of biology more or less in common and all. But the Greater Caribbean Basin is multicultural, and it has a diverse linguistic system throughout the entire region. Do you have any ideas about how to communicate among this linguistically diverse set of stakeholders in the region?
That's an excellent question, Robbie, and very challenging one. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges in the Caribbean. And I think we have learned, at least Fran and myself, in being part of the Association of Marine Labs of the Caribbean, how important is to have translation. And I think that is something that is still missing in SargNet. However, just through SargNet itself, we have found people that are really willing to participate in different languages. For example, the EpiCollect, one of these community science projects to monitor, we got help from different people to translate into French and Spanish. So we're conscious about that. And that is something that we also need to mention in SargNet. For those that are already trilingual, try to send their messages in different languages. Of course, we live in a world, in a planet that speaks so many languages, and English is the international in our era, as was French in other times, isn't it? And that helps to have at least a language, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that don't send messages because might be a restriction in the language. And I think that you are saying, I will invite people from different languages to also communicate in their own language. And I don't know, I will think about that, Robbie. I think that is a very important question, and see if we can create like a team of people that will be willing to translate some of the very important messages or the different type of communications.
So this actually links very well with my question, that is, what are your future plans and how do you envision SargNet in 5 years from now? Is this maybe something for SargNet 2.0 to include all these other languages? And I don't know. So what do you think? What is the future bringing in this sense?
You know, you guys are making me think in this. I have been busy in making it work, and thank to Lowell, and see how we can, incorporate more people. And I think the language is going to be very important, but also I would like to invite more people. So we are talking about complex problems, and complex problems cannot be solved by single people or something like that. So maybe we can think about different little teams that are going to have some access to SargNet to motivate some parts of the community to work either towards translation or towards making some kind of reviews. We are so behind in terms, and at the same time, there are some groups that are super ahead in terms of, for example, managerial strategies. Isn't it? How can you cope with whatever is coming to the beach? And on the latest report by, again, Sermes and Hazel and Brigitte and the team about giving and providing some guidelines. But that is like somebody put it that way and that's it, isn't it? But maybe we can create like little teams that are going to be somehow gathering that information and bringing it back to SargNet community from time to time and from different languages, because we are in the moment of growing. So new people that just arrived are not getting the information from before, isn't it? So from time to time, I send emails saying, if you have a project, please do it again, send it again. And so maybe inviting and creating, and for that, I might be requesting your help in terms of the experience you will have with your podcasts. In terms of what could be those topics in which SargNet could be much more proactive than just kind of a passive way in waiting for somebody to share things, or to be a little bit more proactive in terms of inviting people to think, inviting people to get more information. So I don't see SargNet becoming a website. I don't see SargNet becoming a hub to organize everything, because that requires an institution and a lot of resources behind. But I do see SargNet helping all of those websites, efforts, etc., and maybe creating a little group that is going to be, you know, refreshing the information for the group, for the platform.
Very cool. Does anybody else have more questions for Ligia? All right. I don't either. Thank you, Ligia, so much for taking
Thank you
the time.
so much.
Well, I really want to
us.
thank you. Thank you, because the effort that you are doing is unique, it's amazing, and you're taking this to a very needed step of communication. Thank you for all your efforts.
Thanks for your time, Ligia.
Thank you.
I think we learned a lot today. I certainly did. Dr. Ligia had a lot of very interesting things to talk about, and I had no idea there were, you know, different phenotypes of the sargassum. I thought it was just one plant that had this really unique life history, and so that was really cool for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to Ligia because she has so much knowledge about the biology of the algae and also a lot of different algae. And together with her, but also Hazel and Brigitte, who I know personally, you know, they turned around their whole life when the sargassum came around. Instead of studying what they studied before, a lot of different things, they actually started to focus on the sargassum, and also realized that what they are doing is just one piece of puzzle in all of it, and that putting those puzzle pieces together and connecting everybody will make their own work so much more powerful.
Yeah, I think it was fascinating how she has so much in-depth knowledge of the specific species and morphotypes, and at the same time, she understands what the implications of the sargassum blooms have for the wider Caribbean area, etc. So she has this both, you know, very specific and very broad knowledge about sargassum, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, I think this overall I think it gave us a big picture view of something we, in a way, we didn't really see before.
Yes, and it also showed us that, yeah, there is 250 other species of sargassum. So when we talk about our sargassum, we're actually only talking about 2 different ones that are quite different from the rest. So a quite extraordinary part of sargassum, which we sometimes, I think I at least sometimes forget that this is not the only sargassum out there.
That's true. And so, what do you think, guys, about the future of SargNet? Because she said that she didn't want it to become a web page. Do you know why? I was thinking afterwards, why actually? Why not make it a web page and make it a platform?
There is a web page. There's the Sargassum Hub, which is done. And I think the difference is that if you have an email list that people can communicate with each other, so it's different from a web page or a newsletter. It is a way of that to just give a tool for people to connect easily to each other. And we have that in the coral reef community, the coral list. I think there's like 5,000 or 8,000 people there, and almost every day you get an email with a few topics that people talked about. And sometimes there's like 20 messages back and forth on discussing a reef that has just been found that is really high up or something. So that's something you cannot really do on a web page, like this informal chit chat between people.
Yeah, one could maybe do it in some kind of blog, but definitely not a regular webpage. I was just wondering because, of course, when you're new into SargNet and this mailing list, you don't know what has happened before. That she also mentioned, right? That she asked people to kind of send some important emails so that when new people join, that they see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope like Sargassum Hub is still very new, and maybe Sargassum Hub can take on that part of the archive of what has happened, minus the informal conversations.
Well, great. And so we had a good time today, and we learned some stuff, and and that's a good thing. It's always good when we are able to share ideas with each other. Thank you for tuning in today and learning with us from our guest about sargassum.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can support us and take part in an exclusive monthly Zoom happy hour for Patreons, where you can network with our podcast guests and other sargassum enthusiasts.
This podcast was produced by Marcel van der Kamp, and your hosts today were Robbie Tingham, Francisca Elmer, and Mar Fernandez. We will be back next week with another exciting guest.
Do you want to find out more about what our guest talked about today? Check our show notes for links to the documents and websites. The music in this podcast is from the song Demmer Pray by Drizzle Roadrunner, an artist from Roatan. You can listen to the full song at the end of this episode. If you enjoy his music, then please follow him on Spotify and YouTube, where you can find more of his music. But for now, here is Demmer Pray by Drizzle Roadrunner.
Hey brother, hear me now. Brother dog, now me understand. Now for them no want to see we get nothing. That's why them a pray and always front and star. Now for them no want to see we get nothing. That's why them a pray. Now for them a pray. Them a pray. Them a pray. Me no gain progress. Now for them a pray. Them a pray me to reap success. Now for them a pray. Them a pray. Them a pray me no gain progress. Now for them a pray. Them a pray me to reap success. So me tell them yeah, promises come and me no take that. Only if it come from Jah, I'll accept that. Now for them me put my trust in and give me setback. Yo selector, will and pull up that. Tell some wicked that bad mind me no fear them. Anytime them cheat and chat me no hear them. Me dash a few hard soak for the queer them. Me dash a few hard soak tell them where them. Now for them a pray. Them a pray me no gain progress. Now for them a pray. Them a pray me to reap success. So me tell them yeah. Yes, me know me have a lot of fake friends, but me never woulda thought me woulda have fake family. So me tell them straight, me no trust them. Me no trust you and me no trust him. fake friend lost bad mind in a real life. Star me no rate that, star me no rate that. Me real for me would da bust a million shot in a real life. Now for them a free, them a free me no gain progress. Now for them a free, them a free me no reap success. Now for them a free, them a free me no gain progress. Now for them a free, them a free me no reap success. So me tell you, yeah. Screaming out loud, me woulda tell them fi go look alike, but them a hate and grudge and creep on mine. Them a move like Judas, them a move like Judas. Plus, everybody have a life to live, so me give one rascal who a try judge me. Like them chit and chat, so what them want fi say, cause none of them out there nah feed. Now for them a free, them a free me no gain progress. Now for them a free, them a free me to reap success. Now for them a free, them a free me no gain progress. Now for them a free me to reap success.